Welcome to The Ripple Effect with Soria, where we discuss personal development, the entrepreneurial journey, and impact. Here is your host, Armando Soria.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to The Ripple Effect. I am Armando, and with me today, I have a very special guest that I'm excited to introduce you guys to. I have Crystal Mercado Murphy. Crystal, what is up?
Oh my goodness, so much.
Well, welcome to Mag One.
Thank you.
Like we were talking off camera, I've been hoping to get you on the show for a little while, just seeing everything that you've been up to and what you continue to do for the community. So first of all, cheers.
Cheers.
Salud.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
Let's go cling. There it is. Awesome.
There it is.
So Crystal is with the Tequila people, and we're going to get into that and a lot more, I'm sure. So Crystal, can you do us a favor? And for those of us who may not be familiar with you, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself? And then we could kind of go into the Tequila people and just see where it goes.
Sure. Well, yes, I am from Monterey County native. And actually, as I was coming into this building, it really took me back because I used to, as kind of a full circle moment, I used to come into this building to do some internships when I was like 14, 15
Nice.
At a radio station. So this is really fun. And thanks again for having me. But so Monterey County native, I went to school at North County High School. I went to Hartnell. I went to MPC. I went to CSUMB.
Nice.
So
Yeah,
local.
Yeah.
Stayed here, lived here, worked here, played here. So it's been a really great place to be a part of this community and now raise a family in this community. I go away to other areas, and when I travel, and I just keep coming back. I keep coming back home. There's nothing like it, right? So I love it here, and very proud to be from this area. So I was born in Watsonville, raised in Castroville, super small town.
Yeah.
Community. For those that know this area, it's a really small town. So tiny. Yes.
A couple blocks. No, it's a little bit bigger than that.
A couple blocks. Come on. Okay, it's not that tiny.
No.
But it is. You just, if you pass through, you can easily miss it because it's one of the locations where very centralized locations. So if you do, a lot of people pass through.
Yeah.
Because it connects Santa Cruz, Monterey, Salina. So it connects all of these areas. So it's super convenient for me.
It is, yeah.
Because I can go any which direction and just be somewhere beautiful, right? That's one of the things I love about this area is that we have the ocean, we have the trees, we've got the hillsides, we've got so many beautiful.
A little bit of everything for everyone. Right?
Yeah. Just so much like nature in this area, which I love.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and it's funny. I born and raised here as well. Then I moved to Houston, Texas, and then to San Antonio. But somehow Monterey County has a way of grabbing you.
It does. It has a way to put you back. I was just in San Antonio.
Really?
Yes,
Nice.
a couple weeks ago. I went. I helped consult a new festival that's happening in that
Very
area.
nice.
So a tequila festival.
Of
so
course.
I went twice.
Yeah.
Actually, in the last couple of months, which is my first time going in that area. I stopped in San Antonio very briefly, but I was more near Austin side.
Okay. Yeah.
So that was really fun.
Yeah.
But I definitely couldn't wait to get home back to this
The weather,
cool weather.
Yeah, it's been crazy. Then they just had a hurricane out there too, over in Texas. So hopefully everyone's doing all right with the recovery. I don't miss that.
Yeah. How long were you there?
I was there from 2012 to 2018.
Okay.
Yeah. So we got. My wife and I were engaged before I moved. Then I moved ahead of her, came back, got married, and then our honeymoon was spent driving, halfway across the country and all that. But it was cool. We loved it, but there's no place like home. We have the absolute best weather in the world, and the views and the vibes.
Yes, agreed, 100%. So this is where I'm from, and I'm fortunate to have two amazing kiddos.
Awesome.
One is 21. He's not a kid anymore. He's 21. I have to remember that. And then my daughter's 13, going on like 23. But she's awesome.
I have an 11-year-old, so I kind of
know. Yeah. So I'm a mother as well, and a lot of my family's still in this area. Nice. So a sister, a daughter. You know,
Nice.
a lot of roles.
I want to give a quick shout out to Micah. I've only met him a couple times, but every time I've met him, he's been so welcoming that I the first time I think I introduced myself to him at the last Tequila Festival, or maybe before then, but it seems like I shook his hand and there was like an instant familiarity, like we've known each other forever. And I swear that was my first time meeting him.
Yeah.
I thought. And he's like, "Oh, bring it in. What's up? How are you?" And I was like, "Man, right on. I feel very welcome here." So,
That's awesome. And now you guys golf together, right? Or
no, not yet.
You haven't yet?
Not yet,
okay.
but we will.
Okay. Because I know there's a big Cho connection there as well.
Yeah.
We got a lot of mutual friends
Yeah, there's always
in
a
that
little overlap.
organization. Yes, for sure.
So, awesome. Great. You got busy family, everything going on. So tell us a little bit about how this all happened. the tequila people. Give us the background. I'd love to hear it.
People.
Yeah.
Well, it started about 15 years ago, like my journey in this space. And it started with really it was my brother's idea. So my brother had just moved back from San Diego, and he and I were talking about doing something for our local community. There was just not a lot, at least at that time, of like young professional events, or mind you, I was very young. I was at CSUMB at the time, maybe in my early 20s. And we just talked about what can we do to add value to this community, and what don't we see in the community that we could bring to the community that's new, that's fresh. And so, long story short, we decided to do tequila events. And so our first event was a young professionals mixer that happened to have tequila there as well.
Nice.
So we showcased maybe 5 to 6 brands. And then from there, we realized that there was a lot of interest. So we attracted maybe a couple hundred people to this event, and that was our first time ever doing anything like it. And
that's a pretty big turnout
it was a pretty big turnout. And fortunately for us, because we're from the area, we have a lot of great relationships and connections to people, and some of them took us under their wings and kind of showed us the ways of tequila culture.
Yeah.
Because this was all very new for me and my brother as well. Like very new for me, right? Because I grew up in a household where there was a lot of alcohol involved, and it wasn't always the most positive of experiences. So for me growing up, I was, as a child, I was very wise beyond my years. I had like 3 sets of parents growing up, because I have a lot of older siblings. Older in the sense that they're older in age, but they were super protective of me growing up. They wanted to protect me from those bad experiences that they went through, which were a lot more than what I experienced. And so I knew that, and I knew that it was coming from a place of love, and they just wanted to protect me from these things. And, alcohol, of course, drugs, and all of that being some of the things. And so I just never had a desire to, as a youth, as a young adult, I never had this desire to go and experience drugs and alcohol. I was always very involved in school, extracurricular activities, sports, associated student body. Like I was that person, organizing the staff luncheons, So always, I just always had that in me as far as, well, I'm just going to create somehow, some way. I love creating and seeing something come into fruition that starts here and then goes through its whole process. Right. And I've been like that since I could remember. So for me, when we decided to do something that involved alcohol, it was hard to say yes right away. Yeah. But because I had somebody guiding me, like my brother, we're 8 years apart. So he's the youngest sibling I am in age, right? Like he's 8 years apart, and then they're all a little older than that. So I felt very comfortable with him kind of taking this on as the lead. And then we had other people there to support us on the journey as well. So it didn't feel too scary, right? Yeah, right. Or too far-fetched. So I said, okay, let's do it. And really that's where it started. And from there, it's just turned into so many other things. So
that was about 15 years ago, is that right? Wow.
Yeah, about 15 years ago.
Since the first get together.
The first idea, get-togethers,
So
all of that.
Why tequila?
Well, we wanted to showcase something that comes from our culture, and it was two things. It was one, we wanted to learn about it because, again, we didn't know anything about it that was positive, that was beautiful, that was really cultured, right? Because our experiences was a lot different with alcohol.
Right.
And so that was one. And the other thing was to just not have ourselves immerse in it, but as we started to immerse in this tequila journey, we absolutely fell in love with what we were learning,
Awesome.
with what we were experiencing, and everything that just started coming to us was so just out of this world, like so beautiful. And mainly the people, right? The people that we started to meet and to surround ourselves with. I'm like, wow, this is a whole nother world for me. And so we then wanted to share that experience with others. And that's where the idea came from, as far as this is what we can do. This is what we have. This is what we know. So let's just grow this. So we kind of grew with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that just really motivated us to continue the journey, to continue the experiences for people and bring them along with us on this journey. So
That's awesome.
It unfolded in a very unexpected way for me in particular. As we got through the years, my brother ended up going back to San Diego. And so about year 3 or 4 of doing these events, then I took over, which was really difficult for me. Yeah.
So when the first event, or when it first started, you were more of in the background.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So how was that transition? Like,
really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
It was very scary for me because, you start to question yourself. Is this journey for me? If it's not with this person anymore and this partnership that we had, we started it together. So now it just being me and the amazing core group of volunteers that always have been with me since day one, is this still for me? Since it wasn't necessarily my idea to begin with, is this for me?
Right.
So a lot of questions came up, and also, am I going to, because my brother then at that point stepped away too, not just because he went back to San Diego, but because he started his sobriety journey. And so he's been sober, I think, for just over 10 years now. So,
Awesome.
Kudos to him. And so then that started having me question even more, right? Like, what do I do with this? What am I supposed to do with this now? Here, he's going on a sobriety journey. If I continue the journey in the tequila space, is that going to be harmful to him, right? He was once my partner in this. Is it going to be harmful to me?
Yeah.
Does this make
challenges
me
whether it's you're
just
doing the right thing.
So many questions.
Right? Yeah.
So many questions. So I was at a crossroads for a long time, but the people that had been helping me at the time, they're just like, keep doing it.
Yeah.
This is too good to not keep doing. And so I did that, and I said, okay, yes, I'll keep doing it. And so it slowly had me really just come out of my shell and in this space, right? Because I'm a very like positive, outgoing person, but when you're doing something that you're questioning, it definitely brings out a different side.
Start hesitating on,
right? So it changes how you start showing up. So I was in that, I would say, for about 3-4 years, like in that space of not sure. Right. I was questioning, and I was just hesitant and indecisive.
And while that was happening, so you had the first, you guys were, how many festivals? I guess my question,
we did about 3 or 4 together. Yeah.
And then during that, and then you said it was another about 3 years of that kind of questioning, but the events kept growing.
They did. Yes.
Well,
like I kept showing up, even though I was terrified and questioning myself. I kept showing up, and I was working full time still, right? Mind you, I had kids. I was working full time, and this is something that I was doing on the side, along with all the other roles that we play in this world. And so, but for whatever reason, even though I had this influence around me saying, yes, we're here to support you, which felt really great, there is a reason why I didn't let it go. And I just held on to it, right? And in all of my careers that I've had and the shifting from, one career to another, but having this continually growing and just being a part of who I was at that point, it was really hard to let it go. Because every year it was thought came to mind, right?
Yeah.
This is the year. This is the year I'm going to say goodbye to this and just focus on my career and focus on my other passions, right? And I just every year
still there.
My poor team, they're just probably like, oh my goodness, we can't with her.
So for those outside of the area, I think it's just important to note this tequila. What's the proper name for it?
So it changed names maybe 3 times, and probably now that we're talking about it, it changed with my phases.
So we're in the middle phase now.
We're in the middle phase now.
In the middle phase,
it was the Monterey Tequila and Mezcal Expo.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I know. And then in the later phase, it became the Monterey Bay Tequila and Cuisine.
Right. And so in this middle phase, so the first networking event, we had about 200 people, which is an incredible turnout. But for those out of the area, just to put it in perspective, how many attendees were coming to this annual festival at this point?
At this point, it became about 500 people. And most of the people that would come to the event came from out of the area, actually. A lot of Bay Area folks, a lot of Southern California, up and down the state of California and beyond. Like 2 years ago, we had at least 12 different states represented at the event.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yes. And we had a group from Japan, and we had a large group from Mexico. So
so it was growing.
It grew. And it was hard for me to continue growing it. Because again, I'm a one woman show, but I do again have a solid core team of volunteers, but you can only expect so much from your volunteers when it's not paid staff. It's you can't ask for what they're already providing, right? Because they're doing it out of the love of doing it, and they've got their lives and they've got their families and their careers, and so I had a lot of responsibility, and so again, as we got closer to current day now, it became okay, I need to make a decision now to do this full time and continue to see it grow or not, right? But as I grew on my own personal journey, I learned how to really listen to my intuition and just become very decisive. So that really helped me the last several years to be decisive, to do what's best, right, for me in the community, to make choices that I'm gonna be proud of, and that fit, that are aligned.
So what was the tell me about the moment or the process of going from indecisiveness to making the decision to go all in?
I hired coaches.
Boom. There it is.
I asked for help. I know that's difficult it was difficult for me, again, because I grew up I didn't grow up fast necessarily, but when my siblings all moved out of the house, I was 10.
Oh, wow.
Right? Because they all moved right around the same time. Like one got married, boom, she moved. 3 ended up leaving to Southern California together. Like first it was one, my brother, who went to school out there. And then my oldest brother decided to go and help him and help each other. And then my other sister, decided to go with them as well. And so 3 of them ended up leaving together roughly around the same time. So that was a big time. That was a big moment for me in my life, right? It was a big pivotal moment for me at 10 years old. And so at 10, I was kind of the la jefa in the household, right? My parents, of course, but I had to help them navigate a lot. Spanish speaking parents at home. And so I did grow up fast in that sense of taking on that role and responsibility of as helping my parents navigate all the things.
Yeah, I could relate.
And so, I mean, ask me to do paperwork or anything like that. Right. Hell to the no. No. I hate it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you're onto something there.
Because it's just like,
I remember helping mom at the
all the
doctor's
paperwork,
offices,
all the things, translations. I mean, oh my goodness. But I'm so grateful for all those experiences. Of course, now I can appreciate it. But back to that. So when I was in these crossroads and how I became more decisive was I knew that I had to ask for help, because that wasn't the mentality I had growing up. Even as a young girl, I just would never, I was so independent. I thought, I don't need help. I got this. If I can figure out how to do this for mom and dad, I definitely can figure out how to do this for myself. Right. And so that was how I was for a long time.
So was it difficult?
It was difficult. Yeah. It was difficult to kind of surrender that.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have it all together and I can't do everything on my own by myself. If I have big goals and big dreams, that means I'm going to have to ask people to help me get there and do the things and help me personally break down some of these barriers, right? Yeah. And so in those moments, I definitely reached out. I started talking to people. Who do you know that can help me with this? Or who do you know that can really assist me here? And so I ended up getting a couple of coaches. One was more of a life intuitive coach. And another coach was like a money coach and mindset coach. And so I started to then invest into my personal and professional development. And that really was a game changer for me. Because I got to really understand how I operate as a person, and also how I can integrate then now my personal and professional lives, and just understand, right? Be super aware of my decisions, and every choice that we make has a ripple effect.
Yeah, of course.
Did not intend to say that, but then there it was. So every choice has an effect, and so that really, really, really helped me to get to where I am now. And I feel like I'm just now getting started. So the tequila people then, during COVID, I had a lot of time to digest what was happening in the moments. And mind you, I was doing events, right? And the work that I had at the time also had it was hospitality and events. So it was impacted, right? And so I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to do with this? And it gave me a lot of time to recreate, to go back to the drawing board in the event space, also in the personal and professional development space. I love being in community with people. So when that was taken from us, I really struggled during that time. And so then I created a mastermind for women at the time.
That's awesome.
And so it was a really great way for me to stay connected with people that I enjoyed working with, and I love working with women and in that space. So that was one thing. But then I also was working with these coaches on myself. And I realized I had to make a decision. Am I going to hold on to this tequila events space journey? Or is this now the time to really let it go and just focus on whatever was next?
Right.
So in all of that work, I had many breakthroughs. It just kept coming back one way or another. Even during that time, I kept getting these opportunities that involved tequila and tequila culture. So I'm like, okay. So I took about a week and really just did nothing else but think about the future of what I was going to do with this. And it was yes. It was a yes, yes. And so I finally said, you know what? F it. Yes, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And I decided to also go full time with it.
Wow. That was,
in a time where I'm like, what am I doing? How am I going to do this? How am I going to make this work?
That's a super high level of clarity at that point.
So high level of clarity, and also big time decisions, right? Like, how am I going to do this, make this work, especially being in a pandemic? And so the moment I said yes, though, it just, I went back again to the drawing board. I created the Tequila People in that time. And so the Tequila People is fairly new. The branding, the name, right? Because what I was doing with the events, that didn't necessarily have a full identity. It just, it was an event, and people, it was, well, who's putting on the event, or who's the founder of this, or so it's a lot of questions. And I wanted to also get that to be very clear. I was at that moment super clear on what I wanted and how I wanted it to look and feel, and just it was, so the Tequila People for me is so special because it really became a breakthrough, a personal breakthrough, right? So as this was unfolding, this new rebrand, I also was flourishing into this new version of who I am now.
That's awesome.
And so for me, it's not just a brand, right? It's a whole decade of coming into this new space as a newer person, a newer everything. And so that was maybe 2.5 years ago when I rebranded to the Tequila People. So now I really gave it an identity. And the event then became an event under this umbrella of the Tequila People, because then I started to add all these different services as well. Because mind you, again, I said yes, and then I said yes to go full time on this. So it's like, okay, well, what else can I contribute to my community? How else can I serve, or how else can I show up? And all these just downloads started coming, and opportunities at the same time.
Yeah, that's super powerful. And it's really funny because I've from as an outsider, watching you on social media, seeing your events, seeing you at your events, and I could tell, I could feel your energy. It's just so bright, and like you said, just outgoing and all that,
And that's what I hope the
positive.
Tequila People, I mean, the logo, the colors, I wanted it to, like, because before, right, when my brother was more the forefront, the face of what we were doing, it was more of a masculine brand, right? And that was totally fine. That worked back then, but then during that time and space that I gave myself to really give myself permission to do this, how I feel about it and how I wanted to showcase it and interpret it, I wanted that, right? So it's creating this vibrancy within the Tequila People and within the brand. So I'm happy you said that, because
it suits you. And
the colors just represent also Mexico and the vibrancy, and it has that connection. But thank you for noticing. You're welcome.
And you took the words right out of my mouth, and that's exactly where I was going with it. It's like, it's incredible because that suits you so well, because that's what came out on the other side of going through all that work. And I know it's not easy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what he said. It's like going through some of that darkness, right?
We call it, my current coach and I, he dubbed it kicking the beehive. Yeah.
Yes.
You're going to get stung. But
oh yeah. You're going to get stung. You're going to be faced with a lot, but.
So do you, it seems like, I don't know how better to ask, but it's like, it seems like as you progressed and kind of came out on the other side with that clarity, it seems like you found your purpose, right? So what's the mission of the Tequila People?
Oh, that's such a good question. Yes, on all of that, I did find that purpose, and a lot of it was just to let it go, right? Let it go and let it be. Because I kept getting the tugs of yes, do this. And the purpose, it's twofold. Again, there's always the personal connection, and then there's the community connection. The personal connection and the purpose was that this journey has connected me to my roots, to my culture. And in that process, I have learned so much about who I am, where I come from, and all of the beauty that comes with that, right? Just knowing thyself, really being confident in who you are, being proud of where you come from, being proud of all of it, right? The lineage, the people, and that's why I love that people is part of the rebranding too, because there's a major emphasis on people, current people that I surround myself with, our ancestors, the peoples of Mexico. And so there's that component as far as the mission was a personal mission for me. The community then mission is to really show up in a space that typically would not be a very looked at in a very like positive, beautiful way, for all the reasons that come with it, right? With alcohol and tequila in particular, because there's a lot that still needs to be done to really
change the narrative,
change the narrative on what tequila really is. And so that's part of the mission. The community mission is to, as a collective, really show up in a space to have individuals gain a new perspective into tequila culture. And when I say tequila culture, it's the tequila, yes, but it's also what makes tequila so special. The people behind the brands, it's the stories, you know, every sip tells a story, as I like to say. It's the communities of where the tequila is being made. It's the music that comes along. It's the camaraderie with bebida y comida, right? Because if you have tequila, there's a really good chance that you're also going to be eating something very delicious with it. And when you are sipping tequila, it's usually to be in a celebratory state. And so there's a lot of really beautiful experiences that you are in community with in those experiences. And so it's all of those things, right? It's teaching people that tequila goes far beyond tequila.
Yeah.
It's what makes the spirit come alive. And it's taking and immersing individuals into that vibrancy that we're talking about. And, you know, for me, it's really become a spiritual journey. And I know that those, for me, right, it's my journey. And so it's really become a way for me to connect spiritually with the spirit of tequila, not just the spirit of tequila, but also just the spirit of Mexico, the spirit of the people. And there's a lot there, right? There's a lot rooted there. And that really excites me. And so when I'm able to show up and share some of this, of my culture with whether it's an individual, whether it's a small group, whether it's hundreds of people at a time, that's the mission.
That's awesome.
Is to continue sharing the story, continue to sharing the tequila culture and what it means and what it can do for us. And you know, it's different for everybody.
Right.
Like everyone's journey is so different. And so I really enjoy learning people's journey as well. And I invite them on the journey. It's, you know, especially for individuals who have had really bad experiences with tequila and or alcohol and they want to come in and they want to rediscover and they want to learn more. I love those people. Right. And I always say tequila people are just my favorite people. They're so open-minded. They're big-hearted people. And going to Mexico and experiencing tequila in Mexico is just another world. It's just so wonderful to be able to experience the spirit of tequila in Mexico. And so I try to bring that also here, right? To in my local community. I try to bring that vibrancy that lives, that spirit that lives there at the motherland here.
That's awesome.
So there's a lot I do in like private tastings and in the services that I provide that kind of transport you to the motherland.
Yeah, that's awesome. And man, the passion is there for sure, and it just it's
it definitely lights me up when I get to talk about it.
That's awesome. No, and I'm hearing it, and I'm like, it's cool because I've experienced it firsthand.
Yes.
You know, because
what was your journey like? How did you get to liking tequila?
Yeah, mine. It started off rough,
as most do.
I heard you on another podcast with Hustle and Humor podcast, and you said something there where you mentioned the deals, and you know what I mean. That's what I remember, like tequila. My dad,
growing up with the family.
Yeah, and that's for me. It's tequila has always been special in our culture, in our household culture. You know, because in the micro perspective, because it's always been there. My dad, he knows how to drink, and I say that meaning that I could count on my hands how many times I saw him over, you know, like drunk.
Yeah.
And I'm responsible for one of those times. It really is. I won't go there.
Different time.
different time.
Okay.
Yeah, it was around the rodeo.
Okay, so around this time.
Yeah. He's so funny. But no, my dad's always been really responsible drinker, a really responsible drinker, and I think it's because of my grandfather not, right? So there's some connection there. But I used to, I remember when people would come over for boxing matches. That's what I remember as a child. Like they come over to watch.
We're a big boxing family too.
Yeah. And so they, it'd come out. It'd always come out during that time. I have this very specific uncle that he just loves it, and it would always be there. So growing up, we grew up around it. So when I started getting into drinking, I was not a responsible drinker, so it was just about shots and how many you could have, and get a lime and kind of do all that, and college and all that kind of stuff, or
classics,
right? All the classics. So
yes.
all that negative connotation that you're trying to erase. I was part of that. Unfortunately, I was a part of that negative narrative, right? As are most people when they think about tequila.
Of course, yeah.
And when I started kind of like enjoying alcohol versus just drinking alcohol, I started, like we mentioned off camera, I started with with bourbons and whiskeys, and somehow I started kind of I didn't realize it. I think it was there's been a few people in my life that actually like knew quality tequila and how special it was, and they let me taste something similar to this, and I'd be like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing was actually going to your festival, going to the tequila and cuisine, because I had the opportunity to just literally go there and treat it like a wine tasting, and it really opened up my eyes to really how delicious it is, and sipping on it is a lot better than shooting it.
Yeah. Tell me more.
Yeah, and then we could talk about it, but then I learned about the whole non-additive movement and that kind of thing, and because I didn't know anything about anything, right? All I knew is that I could tell good tequila. I do have a, maybe I don't even want to say it's a palate. It's just that you just know when something burns, when something's smooth, it's not, right? But and I don't want to, I'll put it out there, whatever, like Terramana and these celebrity brands, and I'm sure there's some good ones out there, but the ones that we were like kind of used to seeing and drinking, like there was always something like off-putting about them. And my dad, he's a collector, almost like a hoarder when it comes to collecting bottles. They're all full. Does
he collect tequila or a number of
all
different?
Tequila.
Oh, I love that.
And they're all full. He doesn't drink them. They're just sitting in his closet.
Well, we need to change that perspective.
Yeah. And so every time he went to Mexico, there was a time I remember, I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but it just occurred to me. My mom, there was a time where she was working in Yuma, and so we would take trips to go visit her because it was like during the temporada, the seasons and whatnot. And so we would cross over to Algodones, and we made a thing about it, like with it. Like every single time we went, we go cross the border and come back with a bottle. Yeah. And my dad went down there a lot, so he brought back a lot of bottles. And man, like we just stacked up, and that's kind of, it's funny. I'm just thinking about it. Like he literally has probably like 200 bottles in there, just kind of just sitting there hoarding them. And he did ask me the other day because I started collecting myself now. And he goes, "Do you want to take them?" I'm like, "Yeah." So we'll have to bring them out. But anyway, that's kind of been
I'm
my.
excited. I want to see this collection.
Yeah, and so it's I guess I've had positive influence with tequila, but I've also had negative influence. But then the movement that you've created, and then also some other people in my circle that enjoy tequila, it's been really cool. And like honestly, it's really nice because as a Mexican American, it's really cool seeing our culture being displayed in the positive light that you're bringing at these events and whatnot. And it's pretty cool, Yeah. The whole thing. I had so much fun petting the dog.
I know. The Cholo. I realized that was you.
That was me in the video. Yeah.
I went to go look at it because I was working on some content, right? Recreating some content. And I was looking at that video and I go, oh, there you are. So many people loved them.
Yeah. That's awesome.
We'll see if we can come back this year.
Yeah. So, no, that's incredible. I love the whole story behind the tequila people and your journey to get there, and that clarity and that purpose. And it's really cool. And another thing that really inspires me is that with the success of the festivals, you guys have also been able to give back so much to the community. Rancho Cielo is a big part of it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I read the article on is it edible?
Yes, edible Monterey Bay.
I read your article there, and I'm like, man, that's incredible.
Yes.
So
Yeah, my brother, he's in education, and so when we had our first event and we saw the turnout, we're like, wow, we can really do something great, for our community. And one of the things that we did the second year was we started to speak to local organizations, and we started looking into how we can give back, because we said, well, if we're going to get a good attendance, then let's just bring people into this space of giving back. And so it was the platform that was created was really great because we were able to do that, right? So and for me, it was like, well, the more people that come, the more people that can get on this giving back journey with us as well. And so that was really great. And so we started looking for organizations that were in the education space. And Rancho Cielo was one of them that we came across and absolutely fell in love with all their programs. I actually worked with them. Also,
That's
like
awesome.
I got employed by them for some time, and we just we hit it off. Like
Nice.
the people that were working there in the organization and their mission and our mission. And so it just made sense. Plus, they have a culinary component, and it's been a really great partnership because it gets to teach the students there to how to also work with tequila, where it's not just a consumable product, but you can also use it for the culinary world. And so that's been really great for them to see, like, wow, we can use tequila to prep our meals with, or to do this or to do that with. And so it's been really fun to watch that happen. And when they come to the event and they have their food booth and station there, they have done some like small bites that incorporate the tequila. So that's been really fun to see them go through that process. And we've also worked with like LULAC, League of United Latin American Citizens. They were some of the folks that supported us from the get-go. So they have a scholarship program, and I was a recipient of that. So it's just like, okay, that's what awesome. Have I been a recipient of, and how can I give back, because it helped me so much. And so that's some of the ways that we started to kind of collaborate on these give back opportunities. And that really is a motivating factor, right? It's like, okay, well, this platform is actually not just a platform to come and drink or to come and, it's a platform to create something good as well. So that is such a motivating factor.
That's huge. And that's honestly like what philanthropy is, one of our core values in our business. And that's one of the things that we keep at the forefront for sure. It does. It's that extra motivation you need to be successful, because
it's almost like, I think I read this somewhere. It's almost, you become selfish to the point of, well, I want to do better and create more so that I can give more. Right. And so that really does become that philanthropy component, whether it's you're doing that already personally to do it, or you incorporate it into the professional setting. And I think it's just
awesome.
It's just so awesome. It just feels so good to be able to give back, whether it's a dollar contribution, and it doesn't always have to be monetary, right? You can give back your time and your energy and your efforts, and that also feels really good. It's like, wow, I've created a life, and I've created something that allows me to step away when I want to and when I need to, so that I can be able to give of my time, of my energy, of my efforts.
Huge.
So it doesn't always have to be monetary. I think there's a misconception there when we talk about philanthropy, or when we talk about giving back. Well, no, it could be, you could mentor somebody. You could, there's so many other ways. You could create a collective of your employees or your coworkers, or whatever that space looks like, and do something great together.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's definitely a factor in my future goals to be able to give back immensely.
Yeah, huge. That's great, and very inspiring and enlightening. So thank you for that. I wanted to ask, so let's talk about the verticals, right? Like, what else? So it started off with the festival. You touched on it briefly, in that you offer tastings. Can you tell us about the tastings, and then
Sure. Yeah. So with the tequila people now, some of the services that are available is private tastings. So it could be for small groups, for corporations, for organizations, for company parties. I mean, really any experience where you're trying to enhance the experience or elevate the experience. That's where the tequila people can come in and help you with that. So I've gotten so many I have so many great stories to tell about these private tastings. So I've been offering them since the rebrand, really. So about 2 years now. And it started off fairly slow, but then there's so much interest in these private tastings because I feel like now we're in a space where people are more open-minded about having this type of service come into their
Corporate
home
settings,
or their place of work or right. So and it's great because I've been doing it for so long, but it still feels very new in the sense of this is a new experience for people. Because tequila, as we know, 15 years ago wasn't the same as far as people being open to the idea of tequila as it is today. And so that's definitely an advantage that I have, is being involved so long in this space that I have cultivated some amazing relationships with some of the makers, with the owners, with the ambassadors. And so guess what? That really helps me leverage what service I can offer and how that treatment comes across, right? Because not only is it private tastings, but it's also I'm able to like transfer the skills and the knowledge that those people that I just mentioned have taught me over the years. And so there's just this honor that comes through, right? It's like this visceral feeling of, wow, now I get to transfer that over. And I also do small tours to the motherland. So I do small tours to Tequila, Mexico. It's Arandas and Tequila. And that's a whole nother experience. That's for the individual who is a little more serious about immersing themselves into this space. And again, because I've been very fortunate to, this is kind of a blessing and a curse. When I talked about asking for help,
Right.
Even in this workspace, right? I always was like, well, this is my work. This is what I do. That means I have to do it myself. And so all of the relationships that I've been cultivating throughout the years, I never asked for anything or much, right? From the individuals that I've been working with all these years. And so when I said, okay, it's time for me to offer different services, like going to tequila, to the motherland, what does that look like? What does that mean? That means that I'm going to need to ask for some help. And that, this was 2 years ago, that made me uncomfortable.
Sure.
Because I'm still working through that. I'm still working through the asking for help. And so I just had to get over it, get over myself, and just, I had to remind myself, like, if I want to offer this amazing experience, then I'm going to have to ask. And so I did. I reached out to some really great friends, some tequileros, some really great people that I know in Mexico. And oh my goodness, they were ecstatic that I asked to collaborate with them, that when I took these small groups, that they were going to be the people that were going to greet these groups, that they were going to be the people that were going to show them tequila at the motherland. And so it became such an incredible collaboration and partnership with the folks that I'm doing this with. And so that means that the small groups that I get to take to Mexico, they get the VIP Mexican hospitality, just top notch, right? And so that is something that really differentiates what I'm doing and what and not a lot of people are doing this in the space. So but it really does differentiate how I'm doing it, and that vibe that we bring, that the tequila people bring. So that's been really, really special. And so the private tastings is one, the tours to Mexico is another service. And this actually, I don't promote it or I don't have it up on my website, but consulting. I've been consulting recently, and I've had two potentially 3. We'll know after 4 p.m. today.
Awesome.
Opportunities to consult individuals that are now doing their own festival. And this just kind of fell on my lap.
Wow.
Yeah. And, I think the word got out when I decided last year that the festival was going to be the last one. Word got out, like, shoot, Monterey's not going to really be happening anymore. Let's, people started to think about how they could kind of close that gap and have their own festivals. And so they reached out to me, a few of them, and said, hey, how can you help us? So I didn't know. I'm like, okay, what's happening here? Because it was a few people at the same time reaching out, and a funny story. Texas is part of this story. There is an event in San Diego that's brand new, and there's an event in Texas that just happened, and they're actually both planning on having it the same weekend. But both of them had asked me to help. So I go, oh my God, how am I going to make this happen? I'm going to fly into San Diego and then fly red eye to Austin. How am I going to do this? So it ended up working out where they had different dates eventually. So that worked out in everyone's favor.
Nice.
And I was able to navigate that. But that's just how much interest came about after I had said, this event is kind of seeing its last year. And that's something that I also offer, right, is consulting, whether it's a new restaurant that's opening up and they need somebody to guide them on what tequila they should carry or anything like that. And then the consulting and guiding for individuals who are looking at doing events or festivals. And so that's been really fun.
Yeah,
I've had a great time. I've had a great time doing that. And it's just being able to reciprocate, right? Being able to all the years and my experience, now I'm able to show up in a space that I'm very confident in and able to then show the newcomers
That's
how
awesome.
to do it.
That's really cool. I love your collaborative spirit.
Yeah.
Versus like a competitive.
Oh my gosh,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
There's that one quote, right? Like those that are winning collaborate versus those that are competing. It's more of a winning mentality.
Yeah.
I think
Big time.
it's
huge.
definitely I because of my own opportunities that have shown up, they've mostly shown up because it's a collaborative effort.
So I have to ask, and I remember, well, obviously the last, it's not on this class, it's on your, no, is it the farewell?
No, this one's actually a 10-year anniversary class.
Got it. The farewell, it was announced, obviously that was the not a theme, but part of the last
as part of its like the marketing, everything about it.
So how was that? How was it to let go of your, essentially like it's like a baby, right? I'm sure the decision didn't come easy, but what was, can you tell me about that?
The decision wasn't easy, but the decision was clear, right? As far as I am ready after what was about 15 years to let her go. It was like she came into her quinceañera phase and she's now a young adult and she's off,
ready to go,
right? She's ready to go, like boom. So it was clear that it was time for me to keep evolving as again, personally, but professionally as well. And I have had this idea maybe the last 3-4 years to open up a brick and mortar and to create a space that I do in the event space, but bring it into my own space and have that become available every day for people. And so that idea came to mind about 4 years ago. And at that time, it seemed a little too far-fetched for me to do something like this, only because, like we talked earlier, I think offline about imposter syndrome and all of those things. I don't consider myself as the expert in this industry because I do.
But go on.
I am a student of life, right? I'm constantly learning and there's still so much to learn. But I do consider myself as somebody of influence, not an influencer, but somebody of influence that can assist, right? And that that has something to offer. And so where was I going with this?
Sorry.
Okay.
but don't shortchange yourself. You are.
No, the expert, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, showing up as the expert. There's a time and place to show up as the expert. And yes, I do that, right? There's a time and place. When I'm doing my private tastings, I'm the expert there. When I am doing my events, I am the expert there. So there's a time and place for that, and there's a time and place to be the student. And that's constantly at the forefront, is being the student, because I think sometimes we forget that we're constantly learning, right? There's always something to learn. There's always a lesson. Even when things are not in our favor, there's always a lesson there. So and that's the student mentality that I have, is like, okay, well, I don't see it as a fail when something doesn't go in our favor. It's more of like, what can I learn to show up better next time, right? So I think that's important in any industry, is to show up as an expert in that industry, but also to never discredit what can be taught to self about showing up as an expert or the student, right?
Right.
So with the tequila people, I very much look at it that way. And so it really helps me on how I need to show up and how I'm going to show up. And I'm really proud of the fact that when I show up, like how you see me on social media is how you're going to see me in person, right? Like there's a time and place, like I said, for certain things.
Sure.
And, but what I think is really beautiful and authentic is that when you can show up as yourself in all settings, right?
Yeah.
Of course, there's going to be times where we're feeling maybe a little intimidated or where we're feeling a little timid because it's new, right? Whatever it is that we're showing up for, whether it's a mixer or whether it's a networking event or a business conference, or you're showing up in front of a tequila, like a master distiller that's like now 4th generation tequila maker, right? That's
intimidating.
It's gonna be different how I show up in that space, but at the same time, I need to keep showing up authentically, because I think that's what gravitates those collaborative opportunities.
Absolutely.
And we could be having a bad day, we could be having this, but something that I pride myself in as well is that I leave everything behind me. So when I showed up here, right, we don't know how our mornings were. They could have been the worst morning we've had, but when you show up, it's like, all right, that was 20 minutes ago. This is now. I'm going to be here and here only. And so that really helps with just everything. It helps with everything, decisions and everything like that. So when you told me about the farewell, I just knew, right? I knew that it was time. I had a lot of people reach out. I can't even imagine. A lot of people reach out and tell me, you're crazy. Why are you doing this? Why are you saying goodbye to something that's been so good, or that, that's been successful, or that's been this? I go, well, most people don't really know what happens, right? It may look successful, and it's successful, of course, in so many areas and so many reasons why it is successful. But they also don't know that there could be something greater on the other side of that event, right? It's like, but I couldn't necessarily share with everybody what it was that I've been working on or what's coming, because there's just certain things that you don't publicly say at a certain time, right? To protect your own self and the ideas. And so now I'm publicly saying that the reason was something greater is coming, and that is a space that's going to be available day to day for people to come in and really step into this cultural hub. Everything I loved about the event, I'm going to bring it to life here in a new near future tasting room space.
That's
so great. And sometimes we have to let go of what we've known, of what we've been doing for many years, and that's exactly what happened.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
Yeah, I know that I see you, which is really cool. You're sharing the journey.
I am. And that was another decision, right? It's like, if I'm going to share the journey, I'm going to share the pretty, the bad, the ugly, all of it, because why only show the good? Right. And I think marketing social media and coming from a business perspective, like you, I know you do a really nice job too about how you're showing up online for your business and your personal platforms. But I think it's really important, and not a lot of people do it. Not that they have to, right? Everyone's entitled to show up how they want to online. But I think it's really important if you're going to be showing up. Well, for me personally, is that I am transparent.
Keep it real.
Keep it real,
yeah.
man, because, it's just, we're living in a world where everything is so curated and everything is so, even AI, right? Like everything is just so at our fingertips at all times, accessible, but it also removes us from the realities of what us humans are dealing with on the day to day. And sometimes it's a lot.
Yep.
Right. And and I feel like social media is a very small glimpse. I actually was kind of nerding out a little bit the other day, and I was looking at statistics as far as like, for my personal self, like how much am I showing up on social media, and what percentage of the day that is, and what percentage of hours that is. And it's a very small percentage. So what people see is less than 1% based on my data.
Yeah.
It's less than 1% of my day. Right. And so I think a lot of us can start doing the comparisons or really get taken away from what matters most. And social media has a big thing to do with that. And so I'm very aware of how much time I'm on, of how much time I spent on what I'm creating. And the journey is one of those things. So I was like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's bring people on the journey and show them the hardships, but also the good times, and also the experience of what it's like. Because there could be somebody out there that, whether woman or male, that is looking at or thinking about starting their own journey, whether it's a personal journey or the business journey. And they might not have anybody, right? I didn't have a lot of people to look up to when it came to the business world. And so that is also a motivating factor for me, is to be able to share my journey. And because if it can impact one person, or if it can motivate one person to be like, you know what, man, I see her working, I see her doing this, I see her doing that, I'm either going to reach out to her and see if she can help me, or I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to say yes to the thing that they have been hesitant for so long, right? Because like that's the one piece of advice I always give people when they're like, I want to do this and I have a goal and I have a dream. Do it. Do it. I know it's easier said than done.
Absolutely.
But
you got to jump off or jump in. Or
You've got
cover.
to.
Look at it. No, absolutely. And that's so huge. And that's the whole reason why I do this, is for that very same thing. And sometimes I lose sight of it, because sometimes I don't want to come in and record, right? But to be honest, like, one message, one text, one DM, one comment where it says that we help somebody, and I'm sure that we're going to receive that today with your story, because it's absolutely incredible. But if we could do that, then that's enough to hang our hat on and give us that drive, because like you, through my journey, I've discovered that my purpose has a lot to do with education, and for me, this is my way of, I'm not saying, well, yeah, I guess I am. I'm educating through sharing my experience, right? And this is kind of our window that we have as our medium to let people in and know the good and the bad. We spent 2 episodes ago, I spent like an hour basically like bitching about how horrible the start of the year was.
Oh man, tell me, it's been a hell of a year.
But it's important to show that. And like you, I truly do believe that most of our power lies within our authenticity, and it's really cool. But
it's not easy, that's for sure. But you have to be. I think that there's a lot of greatness in struggle. There's something happens when a couple of people or a group of people are sharing the struggle together, and it creates this deeper connection.
Absolutely.
And it's a humanity thing. And so many people are afraid to take the mask off, to take the armor off, and be human. And he's like, you would think that would be the easiest thing to do, because we're all human. but it's one of the hardest things for people to do. So I have really found that in doing that, it gives so many other people, just a weird word to use, but it gives so many other people permission to be able to do that as well.
Yeah.
And feel safe in doing that as well. And there's a wish that I had right now as we're talking, is that more people would be okay and comfortable with being able to take that armor off and really show your true colors, all of you, the dark, the lights, right? Because there's so much power in sharing that with other individuals. It's a humanity thing, and I think we need more of it. And the whole social media thing and the whole it takes us away from that. And so back to why share the journey.
Yeah.
To remind people that we're human after all.
That's beautiful. Well said. I will cheers you to
Cheers
that.
to that.
Salud.
Salud. How do you like this tequila?
I love it. I've never had, like I said, I've never had this one, and it's great. And if you want to, I don't know if it's in the camera shot or not, but
So I brought this. It's I'm a big fan of this brand. It's called El Tequileño. I'm a fan of many brands. I don't know if you know, but in the tequila world, there are over 2,000 brands right now, and just over 200 distilleries. So if you do the math,
it's wild,
right? How many brands are actually coming out of the same distilleries? And so what's special about El Tequileño is that they don't necessarily contract out. So it's just their brand, and that's it. And it's very rare these days to find brands who don't contract out and then just focus on their house brand, basically. And so this is one of those brands, and it's really a unique tequila. So they actually didn't contract out to a celebrity or anything like that. This was a collaboration. Speaking of collaboration, this was a collaboration. So it was a blending of cultures, which I thought was really cool. So it's a blending of cultures. It has it's the Tequileño Sazerac. So it's the owner of Sazerac Spirits and the owner of he's third generation tequila maker, collaborated and did something really beautiful. And this is it. So this is the results of a blending of families, but also a blending of tequila. So it's a reposado, but it's a different reposado. It has French oak influence and American oak influence. One of those that was aged in the barrels was aged for about 2 years. Wow. And then one was aged for 4 months. So when you do a blending, it's actually quite rare to have tequila that's blended. So in this case, a reposado, in order to be classified as reposado, can be aged up to a year. But because you blend one that's been aged for 4 months,
offsets.
you offset, but you legally have to call it a reposado because it's the youngest aging tequila in that blend. So it makes it really unique. But flavor wise,
it's incredible.
It's delicious, right? Yeah. And I didn't know if you were like a blanco aficionado or a reposado or añejo or extra añejo, but I was like, you can't go wrong with a reposado.
Yeah.
A really well-made reposado. Can't go wrong.
Yeah, it's right in the middle, right?
Yes. Yep.
Well, I enjoyed it. And is that something that, I obviously for the listener, I went to a liquor store in, where was I? Vermont. I went out there for a mastermind a couple months ago, and tequila
what mastermind was it? I love masterminds.
Yeah, so we do one locally, but then I'm part of one that's like online called Warrior Tribe. And
Warrior Tribe?
Tribe. Yeah.
Okay.
Christopher Warren's my coach is
love
responsible
it.
for that one. And so we do weekly calls through Zoom, and then we have like a small coaching level. And part of that level includes once a quarter we travel to various locations. So we did one in New Haven, and then we just had one in Vermont, which is really cool because you talk about clarity, like being out in the Green Mountains and nature. I mean, I came back and I felt like I had X-ray vision. I could see, you know what I mean? But then we have one coming up in the fall. In September, it's going to be in Sedona. So it'll be really nice because we heard that place is just really powerful energy. So it'll be nice to kind of see what's going on there.
Yeah, it's very profound when you talk about nature to be in silence for a while, because that's where I believe like you get the loudest form of clarity when you are in silence and in solitude. So big
we
deal.
all could use a little bit of that.
Absolutely.
In this loud world that we live in.
So much noise. There's so much noise, but that's awesome. I'm glad you're partaking in that.
Absolutely.
I was in a mastermind during the pandemic, and that was an investment, but it was a great investment. Yeah. And I am still connected with some of the individuals that are part of that mastermind. And what was really great about that time was that you had access to people from all over the world, right? Because the virtual space came into play. And in full circle story again, the gentleman who led the mastermind, he actually came out to golf at Pebble Beach.
Oh, awesome.
And so one of the other gentlemen that were in that mastermind, who was a coach within the mastermind, reached out to me and said, hey, we're going to be in your area. Would you be open to the idea of doing a private tasting for us? Nice. And I said, hell yeah. So it was so awesome. Much fun to host them in the hometown area, but to also it turned into a roundtable mastermind.
That's awesome.
Our private tasting.
Yeah.
They were giving me so many nuggets about the business plan that I had, the concept, because at that point I hadn't really shared.
Seems
right?
like things just really aligned for you, right?
Yes. And it was like, wow, this is amazing. Like that's what you get for your investment though. It's a lifelong
that
opportunity,
that
always.
That relationship, absolutely.
And so there it was, right? I did the tasting for the small group. It was a group of 4, and it turned out, they kind of put me in the hot seat.
Yeah,
they're just like, all right, Crystal, what's next
up?
for you?
Yep.
What's up? And I told them this concept that I had. This was a couple years ago, maybe not, maybe a year or so ago, and they're just like, wow, okay. Have you considered this? Have you considered that? What about this? What about that? And I was just like, yes, give it to me, because it's priceless.
So huge. Yeah,
that
absolutely.
was thousands and thousands of dollars worth of their time and expertise.
Yeah, it's the greatest investment.
And I'm like, here, have some more tequila.
Yeah, tell me more. No, that's amazing. And honestly, like there's just nothing like getting together with, and it does, you don't. Anytime, like Napoleon Hill says here, right? Anytime 2 or more people get together in that common purpose, it's incredible. So definitely encourage anyone just to check your surroundings, see who you're with, your associations, and just chop it up and go for it.
The mastering of the minds, right? It really makes a big difference to, and I hear that a lot as an excuse, because I used to say it too. It's like, well, there's nobody here, like, that's like me, or there's nobody here in this community that understands what I'm doing or building, or that's just kind of a scarcity mindset, right? Or you just don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And so I had those thoughts for many years, because I felt very alone, right? Because it's just like,
it's a lonely, as they say, right? It feels like a lonely road when you're in the early stages of it, traveling through it.
It really is.
I felt the same, and
it can be discouraging.
It can be, for sure. And I took the bulls by the horn, and I just created a local mastermind. It's just started,
That's what I did, for the women's mastermind virtually. But it was that. And I don't know what mastermind you're involved in here locally, but one of my good friends told me when I was starting to look, and I was like, okay, I need to be involved in something. I need to be around like-minded individuals. It's like my saving grace, right?
Yeah, huge.
And he was like, well, shoot, I don't know of any masterminds here for you, Crystal. He's like, the only one I know of is just males. I'm like, well, I can't be a part of that. And it's like tens of thousands of dollars, to participate in. And I'm like, all right, well, doesn't help me. So that's when I started to look for virtual masterminds. And I would highly encourage folks to not get discouraged if they can't find anything local that fits their need at the time, but look virtually. I mean, there's just so many options out there. And that's the beauty of the virtual space, is that we do have access to people from all over the world. And there's a lot that can be taught and learned.
that's it. You just got to put yourself in the room with those people, right?
Yep.
Well, Crystal, I want to be respectful of your time, but I think this was awesome. I feel like we were able to tap into a lot of different things, like from obviously when you were going on about the tequila, I'm like, yep, that's her thing. But more importantly, I see your passion. I feel your energy. I'm grateful for you to come by and spend some time with us. How can people track you down, get in contact, see what you're up to, get in touch if they want, are interested in tastings?
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. It's been so fun. And they can reach me. So everything is at The Tequila People. So website, thetequilapeople.com, online, and social media platforms at The Tequila People. I'm more active on Instagram. So if folks wanted to reach out, I'm active there. I show up quite often through the Tequila People account.
Awesome.
And my personal one too. Like my personal one is more my personal journey. And I think you can relate to this, right? Because there's, just like a lot of humans, we are multidimensional people, and there's more to us than just what we do for work.
Right.
And so my personal Instagram, it's just me and sharing a lot of different things about me and or of things that I like. And so there are some tequila things there as well, but you might also see me doing like a silly dance or, talking about some struggles or what have you. The Tequila People, however, is more tequila people related content, right? Like what's coming up, events, experiences, offerings, things like that. So it can be, I would highly recommend at The Tequila People.
We'll put links, and we'll also put a link for it because they are bringing back the Tequila Festival under new ownership.
Yes. So I had no idea or intent to have the Monterey Bay Tequila and Cuisine live on. I had a couple of people reach out that they're, asking what are you going to do with it, is about acquiring it. But then I had a very serious group of people who own a local radio station here in Monterey County, and they just wouldn't take no for an answer, to be honest. They're very persistent, and they're going to do the festival regardless. So I had a decision to make. It wasn't an easy decision, trust me, because this is my baby. And so it could have easily just been done, or, these individuals were like, well, we're going to do a festival anyway. So like, I want to help. I want to help so that they not can do it right, but so that they have the guidance on what's, how can they preserve what was built, because that was their biggest thing they wanted to preserve what was built. And I was like, okay, then I can work with that. And so, yes, it's back. It's back under new ownership with my guidance this and next year.
It just won't let you go.
It won't let me go. It fell back on my lap.
Well, awesome. No, that's great. That's great for us as a community. And it's really cool. It's great. So we'll post some dates. We'll post the links.
Yes,
we'll get it
everything
out there.
Basically is staying the exact same. So it's still in October, and it's still at the Hyatt, and the only thing that has changed is the name, which is Monterey Tequila Festival now, and which is what I think most people called it anyway. So that's great. But it's back, so hopefully you get to come out again.
We'll be there, and we'll actually get there on time.
We'll sneak you in again.
There you
this
go.
time.
No logos, but we'll be there. Well, Crystal, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here. Well, like I said, we'll post up some ways to get in contact. But other than that, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.